Hello everybody, lovely to see you. In this video, I'm going to be getting out my baseboard and making sure the layout that I devised in the previous video using the AnyRail software actually fits onto the board. I'll be getting out all of my rolling stock in order to check the points and the track connections, and also to make sure that I can fit in enough items in each of the sidings for my shunting puzzle later on. But I am getting ahead of myself as usual. Let's get the baseboard on the trestle table and take a look. So there we are. The layout is onto the baseboard. Let's get the camera down a bit closer, because the next thing I want to do is grab a couple of bits of rolling stock and just make sure all the points and track is fitted together nicely. In effect, I'm going to give it a dry run. So there we go. There is the track on the board, and I think it's looking great. I've followed the plan fairly closely, and everything's gone in. Now, there are some areas which do need a little bit of attention. Obviously, down in this bottom corner where I'm going to be putting an engine shed, I need a little bit of extra track, and I kind of feel like I need some more track to run off in the mainline ends, because I'm thinking I might have some sort of scenic break, maybe a bridge, or yeah, I'm not quite sure yet, but something where I need to run these on. There's also a technical reason why I need to extend those as well. Now, I've actually come around to the other side of the layout to make sure that I'm not impeding the view of the camera. But first things first, let's make sure that I give myself a lovely cup of coffee. And the next thing I'm going to do is grab some rolling stock. So I'm going to grab the box car, which came with the Christmas set, the Hornby Santa's Express. And I'm going to use this in effect as a pseudo locomotive. So just checking the track is as tight as it can be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place this down on the track there, and that's running nice and smoothly. And then I'm just going to check the points using that as a test run. So Everything feels good. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is literally just give it a bit of a light run. Perfect. Run that back again. No issues there of derailment, and these aren't the best rolling stock items you can buy. So that's a good test. Let's just do the others very quickly. Now this point is a bit janky, I can hear it and I can see the boxcar wobbling a bit there, but I just don't think that's going to cause too many issues. These are also very, very light. Okay, let's switch to the other siding then, and that goes in there very nicely indeed. Oh yes, I'm having fun already. Right, let's go straight down the main line. Everything is set. Lovely. Slight kink there, I think. I can straighten this up when I actually stick things down. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. Right, then into the engine shed / maintenance area. Running up to the siding. Happy with that. And then into the engine shed. Yeah, that works really well. Last but not least, the final siding. And that was me derailing it then. Let's do that one last time. Okay, happy days. Okay, let's now do a little bit of shunting practice. I want to make sure I have the right lengths of track. Now, if I'm doing a shunting puzzle, then I absolutely have enough space here. I've got 5 wagon spaces here. I can fit 2 more in. I can fit 3 in here and 3 in here. So this area works already in terms of space, and we have a bit of a head shunt here. Now that in effect is head shunting out onto the main line, which I don't know if that's prototypical. I suspect in some places you would have that. If you can imagine, you would couple up all of your trucks or carriages, and then you'd run them out ready and then onto the main line and then back to a station or off on your journey, depending on where you're going. But in terms of how I feel I'm going to be operating this layout, let me just set some points here. I can imagine that the loco is going to be coming out of the engine shed here. She's going to be running down out onto the main line, where if she wanted to go off and do other activities, then she could do. Otherwise, she's going to back up along into position and then into the sidings to do some shunting. So we can bring this into here, couple up, and then obviously we would be then running out. Now, what I already know is that I don't have enough track here to get a rake of 3 trucks beyond the points. And this is one of the reasons I think I need just another 2 inches of track almost to the edge of the board here in order just to bring this loco out. So I might just put a little bit of track on there just to show how that would work. Okay, so I've added a piece of track on the board there, and I have properly set my camera to wide angle view so you can see the whole thing. Apologies, I thought I'd already done that. So now you can see, just by adding a couple of extra inches on the end here, we can run the trucks past the points. And then if we wanted to, just for a bit of fun, we can then run this train up and down the pseudo main line, as it were. There isn't ever going to be enough space down this end to bring the train back up into the kind of maintenance area, which is a shame because we have this length of track which ultimately isn't really going to be used much. So I may have to rethink this. If it's redundant, it could probably come out. I may be able to move the points up, and therefore we may have enough to get some trucks back. But that's something I might consider. I really do want to kind of use this level crossing. You'll see why later on when I start to get some buildings out. For now, let's run this train back up. We're going to switch those points, and rather than coming into this siding, let's push these 3 trucks straight into this area here. And there we go. So you can see we have space for 3, 5 and 3. We can run ourselves up and down. I think this layout's going to work really well. Well, you know what? I think it's time we had a bit of fun. I've connected up the Gauge Master Combi to the layout with a little bit of soldered track here, and I'm going to get a loco on board. I think I will start with the Sentinel. Okay, there we go. I am in position, coffee ready to go. The Sentinel is on the track just up here on the main line. Power is on, so let's give everything a go. This track, I have to say, is particularly grubby, but she's off. And looking fantastic. Right, let's just run back up the line with a bit more speed there. Wonderful. This time heading straight down the main line. Lovely. And back up again. Bit more speed. Oh, I'm really happy with this. Now, unfortunately, I am unable to test this section of the layout here because I've powered this end, so the current in effect is running down, but we cannot obviously run current back up the track. So as soon as I throw these switches here, we're in effect losing power to this part of the track. So for now, that's fine. I can just have a quick play around with the shunting area. What I'll do is I'll go into some of the sidings now. Let's get that one into position. Heading forward and into siding 1. Lovely. Oh, I'm already having fun. Back out onto the main line and then up into siding 2. This point definitely seems to have an issue. I'm just going to run past that a couple of times. Let's go back over that again. Yeah, there's definitely an issue there. I do have another couple of left-hand points, so I may have to swap that out. But this is the whole point of going through a kind of test process. Let's just see how this operates. I've just stopped over the frog there. Let's see how this operates going straight over that particular point. No particular issues. I can kind of hear that it's a little bit janky. Okay, well, I'll leave that on for now. That's something I think I will have to switch out when I actually come to sticking down the track. But I think the next thing to do is to get some trucks and have a bit of a play. Okay, so I'm going to imagine that we've exited the engine shed here, we've come out of the maintenance area, we're on the main line and we are about to run up and then reverse in and grab some trucks. And there we go. I think that's highlighting that we definitely have an issue around here with this particular set of points. This is really highlighting the reason we need this extra bit of track. There's not going to be enough space to place a buffer stop as I have down the other end, but yeah, we'll just have to see how we get on. Well, there we go. I'm really happy with how that session went. I think it's proving that this little shunting layout on this small board is going to work quite well. It's not 100% perfect. There are some things which, if I had just almost a couple of more inches either side, would make all the difference. But I'm working with what I've got. I'm keeping things simple and I'm really enjoying it. That was great fun. And I know that everything's going to work. Now, I do have some point issues, and I think I know what the issue is with this particular point here. I noticed that the frog is really quite deep. So where this plastic part comes across, these two seem to be a little bit shallower. And what's happening is the wheels seem to be just dropping in, and because it's obviously on a bend, it's dropping and then derailing. So I think I may have to swap this one out. Okay, so I think what I'll do next is I will grab some of the Metcalf models and let's have a look at what things might look like when the buildings are in place, because it's very hard to get an idea of scale when using the AnyRail software. See you in a mo. Okay, so I have my box of Metcalf models here to the side of me. I have my printed track pan, which I am using as my rough guide. I may need to move some things around as I go through it, but that's absolutely fine. First things first, we have our long factory, which is this one here. Lovely little model. It has a kind of platform area, which I'm assuming they would be used to load box wagons and that sort of thing. Now, I don't have many of those, but I do have a home for this already, and I think I'm going to be placing this here. Now, obviously you can't see this from your side where the camera is, but I will pick it up and we'll have a bit of a pan around the board later. But that's where I'm envisaging that first one to go alongside the trucks. Now, the second one we have is the Metcalf factory entrance, and I envisage that almost being right where you are in terms of the camera, right there. So center scene, if you were looking at the model from that side, you'd be looking over or through, and hopefully you'll have a nice view of everything that's going on around the scene here. I may have to move some things around so when people get down and get low and have a look through, it's interesting. But that's where I envisage that going. I've got the top there, the kind of bell tower, which just sits on top, and I think that is looking okay. Next to this one, I then have the pumping tower, which has a rather large chimney. I did originally have that around about there on the edge of the model so that the trains would run up alongside it. And on the backhand side, I was envisaging maybe there'd be a bit of graffiti, a lot of grime. But I have latterly been reminded that the Metcalf models actually come as a kit together. And this one can, whether it should, go this way around with an adjoining building like that, and that coming on there. Now, we'd have to move things forward a little bit. And that's actually how I have it on the track plan. So you can see it on the top here, we have the entrance building, and then we have the pumping tower here. Now, the problem with that is, if we are to have any form of sort of entrance road, this area is really rather tight. In fact, it's impossibly tight. Now, what we could do is move everything to the left a bit or to your right, and therefore you can imagine trucks coming in having an area to turn. And if anyone did need to access the kind of maintenance area over here, then that could work. But things again are getting a bit tight. So I think I may return to having this one up in this corner. And then we'll do something separate with the actual kind of joining house later on. Maybe it can be some sort of small office or used for something else. So let's just put that down here out the way at the moment. Okay, let's move the box over here. Next, we have one of my favorites, and that is the signal box. I think that just looks lovely. It reminds me of the one at St. Albans, which I believe you can go and visit. That is going to go about there. So that should give the signalman view of the points, both in front and down here, potentially. It's a little bit too close for this point here. I realise I'm looking at both cameras. You can't necessarily see everything, but we'll have a look shortly. But I think that's okay for now. And then last but not least, we have the kind of main factory building. Now, again, as part of the Metcalfe models, this one actually is supposed to adjoin the low level one, which I've already placed on the board. I've actually placed the steps going along the side, but traditionally this one would kind of sit alongside that one, and the steps would then run down onto the platform. But that's not what we're going to do here. So I am struggling as to what we can do with this. I think this one is going to potentially, I don't know, maybe there, I'm not sure. I feel like I may have one left over. It could even actually possibly go down here, but the problem is with these doors, it would make sense to have those as accessible features for trucks and personnel, and having it butted right up against this one here just doesn't seem to make sense. Okay, so that is actually how I think I'm going to lay things out. Excuse the shaky camera, this is now handheld, so I can give you a proper view of the board. Let's take a walk around then. So the key departure from the original design has been to move the pumping house and adjoin it directly onto the factory, and that seems to work really well. I'm really liking the view through the main factory entrance here, through the archway. You can see the signal box over in the distance, and I think that just looks fantastic. And then, of course, we have the other part of the warehouse basically replacing where the pump house was, and I think that works quite well. There's just about enough clearance for the road to kind of run right up alongside it. And then we have the warehouse doors whereby people can throw out bags of stuff, flour and grain and whatnot into the backs of the trucks. Now, I don't know if that would actually happen in real life, but it's what I've got to work with. And I'm trying to make things as realistic as possible within the confines of my own imagination and the stock that I've got. I'm happy with that. And of course, a lovely view walking up the steps into the signal box. Now, obviously, the one thing I don't have is the building, the engine shed to go over here. And I haven't decided whether it's going to be a single or a double. I'm thinking a single just to go along this stretch here because, and this isn't in the track plan, I'm thinking I can place all of my electric switches for the points in this corner, and then I can have the controller just literally sat to the side, but the points can be physically switched from within the board. It wasn't something I was planning on doing, but I feel like I can run some Harris fencing or some sort of industrial fencing as part of the scenery and actually box off this area for those switches. I think that'll work quite well. And there we can see the Sentinel ready in a siding with the 3 brown trucks alongside the warehouse. Everything's looking good. So there we go. The layout works. It's on the board and I've managed to check the general running of it, and I'm really happy with how it's going to work. There are a couple of teething problems with regards to a few of the points here, which I will try and address separately. And we also have the buildings out on the board to get an idea of space. Now, one thing I didn't mention previously is that there are some areas here which I'm looking to landscape. So I've left this area at the back purposely because I want to create some sort of grassy hillside, maybe put some sheep and some fencing on there, just to give the idea that this side of the tracks we have the industry, and this side of the tracks we have some lovely rolling countryside, and that will kind of be a split scene where I can kind of get to practice some static grass and some trees and bushes. And then over here, maybe some concrete and some stones, some tarmac in this area. Yeah, there's lots to get on with. I'm really excited. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. I am certainly having lots of fun putting everything together. And in my mind's eye, I can see where this layout is going and what the future holds. If you're interested to see that future, click that subscribe button. You'll get pinged every time I upload a new video. And importantly, hit that big thumbs up like button. It helps push this video out to other people who might also be interested. And I'm very keen to get new modelers and experienced modelers alike onto the channel so we can start a conversation to let me know whether or not you think this is a good idea and it's going well, the things that you would change and how you might do things differently. Alternatively, if you're completely new to this like me, are you enjoying it? Is there something that you'd like to see? Are there things that have been holding you back, or your pitfalls and trials and errors and your learning experiences? Drop everything down in the comments below and I will reply to as many as possible and have that conversation. Thank you once again for joining me here. I'll see you next time when hopefully I'll be getting the soldering iron out, the glue, and getting all of this stuck down.